for joining our session today. We will be talking about uniting your divided data. Standard slides, right? Please silence your mobile phones. Take the survey after our session. That would be fantastic for all of us. And download the IDA app. All right, so what are we going to talk about in this session? I'm Kathryn McKissick from District 360, and I have invited some of your peers at organizations that we work with so that they can share with you how they're managing their data, right? I thought I'd start by just acknowledging the fact that data is coming at you from everywhere, right? You're getting assessment sheets from your city, you're getting maybe membership information, you're getting data from your field services, clean and safe stats, you're getting data from the public realm. People are trying to sell you data on your football traffic. You're getting information from board members. It's coming at you from everywhere, right? And in today's world, data is valuable. So what do you do with the data as a downtown district, right? Do you throw it in a file folder on someone's desktop? How do you leverage that data to make it valuable? And what can you do as an organization to sort of streamline the data collection, store it somewhere valuable, and then leverage it? So I'm excited to have invited 3 of your peers today. I'll let them introduce themselves, but I was excited to invite these 3 because they all come from organizations who have been proactively figuring out what they're going to do with their data, right? Each of the organizations has also chosen to integrate some systems, so to sort of streamline their operations, and I'll let them describe what that's looked like for them. But I think that along the way, if you have any questions, we're all open to raise your hand and speak up, and they're happy to answer questions as we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Branly. I am the Director of Administration and Finance for downtown Durham in North Carolina. Thank you all for coming. And we are the smallest of the 3 by far. Our city has about 280,000 people. We're in a metro with Raleigh, Chapel Hill, the Triangle region, so our region is a little bigger. Our downtown is small, our budget's small, our staff is small, so we do a lot with our community board product. So, just a little tiny bit about me. I'm not from Durham originally, but I've been there a long time. I've worked downtown since the 90s. I also have been in real estate development. I owned a small business in the downtown. I was on the board of the organization before I joined the staff, and I've been on staff for about 3 years.
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, I'm Gina Cavaliere. I'm with the Downtown Detroit Partnership. I joined the Downtown Detroit Partnership about 8 years ago. At that time, our BIZ, which is what it's called in Michigan, a business improvement zone. We also have business improvement districts, but the difference is that the BIZ is initiated by the property owners as opposed to the government and managed much more closely by the property owners. So that was formed in 2014. I started in 2015. Our business improvement zone budget is about $5.5 to $6 million at this point. It is managed technically by a volunteer board of directors who contracts with the Downtown Detroit Partnership to manage its day-to-day operations, very similar to many of your organizations. We also manage 6 parks on behalf of the city. And one of those parks is on behalf of our energy company that has converted private property into a park. And we maintain our central business district, which is just over 1 square mile. We also are the fiduciary for the Detroit Homecoming, which is a fantastic program that brings expats back to the city to see what's going on and encourage investment. And we are the fiduciary of the MOGO Detroit Bike Share program and the Detroit Grand Prix. So we have a number of affiliates, and we get to do a lot of interesting work. there anything I missed? Our scope also includes some urban innovation, urban planning, and my background is primarily in economic development. I worked in government for the first decade and a half or so of my career and transitioned into nonprofit, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Ebony Walton. I am the Associate Director of Stakeholder Engagement at the DowntownDC BID. I've been with the BID for about 16 years, started out in marketing communications, transitioned to operations, and now with stakeholder engagement. We are a BID that spans about 138 blocks. Our budget is just over $15.4 million, and we, in addition to, in those 138 blocks, we have about 6 parks, all of which are owned by the National Park Service. But last year, through an act of legislation, Franklin Park, which is just over 5 acres, we now manage that park. So it's the first ever project of that kind, and literally the president had to sign it into legislation that the park would, NPS would give ownership to the District of Columbia, and that they in turn would give us management authority. So lots of different pieces moving, and we have about 60 ambassadors that we manage in-house. And some of our programmatic elements are similar to many of you. So I had the privilege of, I guess it was a privilege of being with the BID before Salesforce when everything was on paper. So I'm sure you all know how frustrating and crazy that can be. So we've come a long way, but we still have a very, very long way to go and have so many different systems, which I think we'll get into later.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue. So where I wanted to start is what did you do before you had a system, right? So Anna's team has been on Salesforce using the District 360 platform for just over 2 years. Gina's team had Salesforce before they met District 360 and no one used it. It was not a helpful tool, and then we revamped it, and now I think it's a valuable tool, but we'll hear about that. And Ebony's team has had Salesforce for over 10 years, 11 years, so they had it before they ever met us, and then we've helped them to make it a more useful tool and integrate with other systems. So, that being said, in a world pre-District 360 or pre-Salesforce, can you describe what that was like? And why did you look for a CRM or some solution out there?
Well, I don't mind starting. So people had things on Excel spreadsheets on their computers, you know, they think it belongs to them, and we're like, no, you work for the BID. These are contacts that you created at, you know, as a part of working for this organization. So it really was challenging because every time you have to send a mailing out, do an email, it's like trying to cobble together and herd all the cats and then just get into this sort of, we need your contacts. This is about getting everything on one page. And then there's so many different things. Email, and then Excel spreadsheets, and then operations. We've been using Team on the Run for a while. And just, it really was hard because there was no central system for all the data. And we're getting closer, but it still requires a paradigm shift for everyone, and you have to have buy-in of executive leadership because it has to come from the top down. And with so many different systems, it really should be easier. You know, my thought is we are not doing rocket science. This is not brain surgery. You know, these are just contacts. Can we get them all in one place and organize them? So I would say, especially because I was in marketing communications, it was somewhat of a nightmare. So it's been nice to see the gradual change, but still trying to get that buy-in and then get all the departments to really be on one accord.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Anna actually searched out, I know that you were evaluating different platforms. Do you want to speak to sort of what that process was like and why you landed with District 360?
You know, when I joined DEI, they were a little bit down the road on the decision-making process. I know that Matt Gladdick, who is now the head of the Chapel Hill partnership, he was with our organization, and he really was pushing us towards a centralized system. And when I started with the organization, it was a bit of a hot potato, right? Nobody really wanted to. We only had 6 people. At the time we had 5. I was the fifth person to join. So there was nobody really wanted to take it on. So. And I'm the person that gets all the stuff nobody wants. So, and then we hired a data person, Rebecca, who's not here at the conference. And Rebecca and I really, together, own the data and the contacts in our organization. They definitely looked at some different products, but because we're a bid and District 360 is tailored for that type of organization, it has a lot of different things that you can add or not add. So really flexible for different size organizations. I'd never used Salesforce before. I was new to the organization. Rebecca also new to the organization. She joined 2 months after me. Never used Salesforce before. I'd heard of it, I guess. So everything we learned, our jobs, how to use Salesforce, and everything about the data over the course of the time that it took us to implement.
I can just about say ditto to what both of these women already said. When I started with the partnership, we had an internal champion. Her name is Melanie Piana. She's now the mayor of the city of Ferndale. So she was really the champion, and we invested a lot of money in Salesforce. She had identified, she's somebody who had a spreadsheet for everything and analyzed everything, so the business case was there. But then she left shortly after we had launched. The big issue that we had with a rocky launch, there were two issues. One, and I had been part of another organization that transitioned to Salesforce, and our mantra and our team was garbage in, garbage out. So we did not have very clean data that was entered in the first place, similar to yours when you had all kinds of Excel spreadsheets and Post-it notes and individual computers. And then the other issue that we had was that we spent a lot of money on customizing a Salesforce platform for our organization that just didn't really work. So when we saw the District 360 opportunity and started to investigate it, it really aligned with the needs of our organization, and that's when we made the shift and started to build the momentum that was needed for it to be an effective tool for us.
Let's talk about the transition and sort of the integrations that each of your team has chosen and why. Like, how does integrating, like in Anna's case, how does integrating your nonprofit fundraising and your constant contact, how was that transition, and what was sort of your strategy behind that?
I think you can see this is a really good demonstration of how long we've each been using it and the size of the organizations. We have two. And honestly, until Kate said, I didn't realize that the NPSP was an integration. It's in there, it's baked in, so it's very seamless for us. So the Nonprofit Success Pack is, we manage our private fundraising through that. It's so we implemented, I guess during the pandemic, I don't know, 2019 into 2020. So our fundraising, of course, like everybody's has been kind of out of whack. So I moved everything into Salesforce, and then we didn't really run a campaign for 2 years. So just getting really into the details on that, but being able to very quickly pull up the information has been really helpful. Before we did it all on Excel spreadsheets. The other integration we use is Constant Contact. If you're thinking about going with Salesforce, they have MailChimp already integrated, so I strongly encourage you to look at what integrations they already have that Salesforce already has. There's a ton of them. And if you can switch to whatever it is, that's going to save you some heartache. I couldn't convince my marketing person to do that, so we used Constant Contact and worked with Cube84 to find an integration for that, so that when somebody signs up on our website or we change something in Salesforce, that information syncs back and forth. It's not, it took a little doing to get that done, but we figured out a way to do it, and it saves me a ton of time.
So I'm not the technician on our team, so if you have any questions about these specific integrations in detail, please email josh.long@downtowndetroit.org.
His contact is on the last slide. I can also help you out.
Yes, exactly. So, but I one of the values of these integrations is it has allowed us to bring in, as supporters, different people from different parts of our organization. Conga is a fantastic example of that. We manage parks, as I said, and with those parks, we have park rentals. And that is the way that we hooked somebody who is possibly the biggest avoider of anything integrated, because we use that to generate, we intake a request for a rental. We can spit out, by checking the boxes, what the cost of that rental would be, and we can generate, convert that to a contract, and it's all integrated. So that's something that took a process that was very cumbersome for somebody who was not particularly connected to everybody else, and was able to bring that in. And now we're actually looking at adapting that a little bit so that we can use it for some of our clean operations, because we do provide cleaning services on a contract basis in addition to what the biz does on a base. In Eventbrite, MailChimp, those are great examples of where, when you have organizations, we have about 30 people in our organization, so we have different people who are responsible for different activities, and they don't always see how their work and the data that they're collecting could support somebody else's work. And that's where, with those few examples, people are really starting to see, well, the person who's producing this signature event, it's great if they can see what members showed up to other events, and those are potential sponsors. So right now we're really concentrating on how we look at this as a whole and use data to monetize some of our opportunities.
Okay, so similar experiences to what the other two women have said. I think I will back up a little bit in terms of when we first started. So Cube84 was our third consultant that we had to build out Salesforce. And one of the things that's key is you gotta know how you wanna use it. And so, as you all know, the work that we do as BIDS and SIDS as Main Streets is very unique, and so people don't always get it. And so trying to explain what it is, it's an anomaly. And so you need someone who understands the work that we do, because there really isn't anything like it. And that really is key in setting up your system to get what you need. In addition, you gotta sort of think long term in terms of what do you wanna know, what do you wanna connect? Do you wanna know when someone opened up a campaign? Do you wanna know how many times they clicked on it? That will help you figure out all those integrations, because we don't even have all of ours up here. We also use Eventbrite. I think I wanna talk about Conga later. And so I would say the really biggest success we've had with Salesforce is used by our foundation. So we have a foundation that helps support other programmatic elements like Franklin Park and events, and Give Lively and that NPSP PAC has really been huge for them, because when you put information in for a contact, if that person is a donor, they can see all of it. And as the other two women alluded to, you need to know, you need everyone on the team to understand that however you're interacting with the contact, Other people need to know it. It's not a secret. It's not like a recon mission where we're hiding the data. Everyone needs to know. And if you talk to someone and you ask them for $5,000, I need to know that before I go ask them for $10,000. And when you talk to them. So it really is getting everyone on board and figuring out how you are going to use all of that. We use 311, so we're the only bid in DC that has a direct line to the city. So when we put in a 311 case, that information goes directly to DC government. And so that's very helpful to have all of that in Salesforce. It doesn't mean they move any quicker, but at least we know when we reported it, we know how many days. And so I think you really have to think about long term. And for me, I always say, if I decide tomorrow that I want to go work for Tyler Perry, all of my information should leave with me, all the contacts and all the work that I've done. And so you really need to get people to understand that the work that you're doing, it relates to everyone, and it shouldn't be such a large lift when someone leaves. Now you got to dig through their email, you got to go through their OneDrive to see what they did. No. Jared Price, president and CEO, he also gave, and he also talked to all of these people. Having it in one place is key and is huge.
Thank you. Now it would be interesting to hear, I think the way Gina put it was, how do you monetize your data? So do you have any examples of where you've used the data that you've collected and made a compelling case with your city or your donors or any of your board? It's just, how do you use that data? How do you share it? I think it would be interesting for folks.
Do you want me to start? So, number one, we're figuring that out. And we think that there are a lot of opportunities that we have not yet identified. I just got an email that we have just been selected for a grant from a Michigan foundation to explore exactly that and how we dig into more of that. Where we are saving money right now is becoming more efficient and becoming more connected. We have a lot of opportunities to be able to do more though, for sure. Something that we had been wanting to do for a long time, and we have 264 restaurants, we have 588 assessed properties in our business improvement zone. And that Google API function is something that we've been, particularly with COVID and how many people have asked all of us, who's open, who's not. So connecting that, and right now it's in Salesforce, but we're converting it to, we just switched to a new web platform and launched a new website. So we're going to be able to use that to have an online business directory for restaurants and retailers that would have been very cumbersome before had we not been using that function. So some of it is just inefficiencies, but hopefully we'll learn, and next year we'll be able to share what Josh learned this year for this fellowship that he's going to be participating in.
Yeah, that'll be amazing for him to share that back. I think it's worth highlighting too, because I think the terminology might not be familiar to everyone here. The Google APIs that we're listing here, it's something that we released in the beginning of the pandemic, and it essentially is reaching up to Google and pulling down whatever information that your downtown businesses have input for themselves. So how they maintain their own Google listings. And it's separate from your own team's information. It's in its own box, so you can tell that, so you still control your data, but you're also seeing their data. And I've heard use cases where, first of all, as Gina highlighted, it's good to know if something's permanently closed or if it's open. Some business outreach folks will look at the information, and then they'll use it as a reason to pick up the phone and call that downtown business and say, hey, we noticed that information's out of date. So it's kind of a good way to engage with downtown businesses. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight is this Give Lively and Give Smart. I think both of you highlighted this, but I just wanted to say out loud the process that they're describing, which is Gina's team sells memberships, and Ebony's team collects donations online for the foundation, right? So if you go to their website, Gina's team has an actual dedicated page where members can sign up. So they put in all their information, they select their member level, they put in their credit card information, and all of that just comes straight into their database. So now they have the membership information, what level, you know, the payment was received on this day at this time, and we've set up notifications. So for the membership person, it's not this manual who's expiring next month, right? She can go to that system, she can pull up a list, and she can see who's expired. Actually, I think she gets emails, which is even better. But so it's sort of, you know, streamlined that, automated that process. And I think I heard anecdotally that she's selling more memberships because it's easier now. It's right there. It's automated. And then for the foundation, for Ebony's team, there's the same thing. If you go to the Downtown DC Foundation page, they're leveraging Give Lively, which is similar. But there they can collect donations, and when that money comes in, it comes into their database. The contact is created automatically. The amount of money that they gave is created automatically. And so the foundation team has all of that seamless work, time savings, as far as processing, you know, donations and acknowledging. And they've automated the letters too, so they get a thank you letter that automatically goes out. So I just wanted to highlight some of those because I know a lot of you have memberships and foundations as well, and that's what they're speaking about.
What I'm not familiar with the orange and the dot bar above it. Is that SharePoint?
Website integration.
Website integration.
And your team has several layers of website integration. I know Josh did a food truck mapping thing, so he puts in a food truck and when they're going to be where, and on that day it shows up on the website so that you can see which food trucks are going to be there on those days. I think you also have board photos and bios.
Yes.
So your team will input those in Salesforce, and when they check the box, those go live on the website. So again, it's a repository. Your team has done a really good job, Josh, of thinking through, you know, this is a powerful platform. What else can I automate next? You know, and the parks example is a really great one too, because someone fills out a form on the website, comes into the database, creates a contact for them. You generate a contract and have it out the door. So it's a really creative thing.
We use Conduit for an automatic signature. Yeah, I just wasn't familiar with that.
I know. We could pick a better icon next time. Does anyone have any questions? I know a lot of people were curious to hear from their peers, and I'd like to open it up and see if you have questions.
Do you have any visualization by any chance in terms of the application of these, I guess, different apps?
Of their dashboards and stuff? No. I can follow up with that.
I want to add something. One thing I think that's really key that we recently found out that Cube 84 with the District 360 platform is a board management tool. And so being able to catalog your meetings, being able to know who attended what meetings, being able to use that in a way that's practical for your board and for your annual membership meeting, and that it's all in one place so you don't have to use something separate. I would also say we recently added a property manager object, and so our finance team, they have their own records and data of all of the property owners in the bid, what the square footage is, what their rate is, and we recently put all that information into Salesforce. So it just helps that you don't have things in different areas, but in this one place, you have all the data that you're looking for. And that goes back to, I think, Kate's point and Gina and Anna about getting every department to understand that the information that they catalog and that they collect is important to the whole.
Yeah, we have that function as well, and that was one of the biggest benefits of our evolution was getting that, you know, having a contact system that is also tied to properties. Right?
Okay, thank you. What question about the financial software that you're using? Because I know part of our challenge was that our financial software didn't necessarily integrate. And so as we look to upgrade, trying to figure out the best option for that.
So our financial software doesn't integrate with Salesforce, but what we did is put all the information for the tax assessments and the property owners in Salesforce. Because before it was just on paper, or either we're looking through the DC government database. But what we can see now is 1301 K Street, the address, the owner, the square footage, the tax assessment rate, when did they pay, are they up to date? So having that in Salesforce is huge, so that it's not like on paper or, just the finance team can access it. But I just want to clarify, so we use Blackbaud in terms of like processing POs and invoices. That doesn't integrate with Salesforce, so it's just different module.
Got it. We upgraded our Beanworks so that it could integrate. One caution that I have for you is, when you look at Salesforce and you dig in, you can do just about anything you can think of. You can do project management. If you represent to your team that you're going to integrate everything, people are going to be scared and they're going to be resistant. So take off, bite-sized chunks that are based on a problem that you're facing where you need a solution. Because you could do everything you could possibly think of, but you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We have taught our staff to think about Salesforce first. So if they have a problem they're trying to solve, the information they're trying to collect, or something they're trying to report out, to come to Rebecca and I and talk to us about how we can use this tool that we have to solve that problem. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. You probably can, but maybe it takes a little more effort and time and money than you want to spend. So, but we really encourage everyone to look at Salesforce first in terms of how we can solve problems within the organization.
Yeah, Brooks. Ooh, my question is probably taking us way back to the beginning, so I'm coming from the public sector and I'm now very happily running a bid. It's new, but I'm used to doing everything on a lot of different spreadsheets. And so I'm not entirely sure what Salesforce is or what District 360 means and what Cube 84 is, and so I can come to the booth if that's easy and if that's not a question anybody else has, but be like 101 for dummies here would be
Yeah, I can clarify.
lovely.
I can clarify. So Salesforce CRM, we don't have the logo on here, but it's the leading global sales CRM. Does everyone know what that means?
Constituent relationship management.
Star A+. Yes, so CRM. And you wouldn't think of that first. Typically it's a sales or it covers a lot of industries, but it's a highly customizable software platform. And so Cube 84 is a full service Salesforce consulting company. And when I worked at a bid in the DC area and we used Salesforce, I hired Cube 84 to do a project for me to customize Salesforce. Obviously that had an amazing opportunity for me and I went to Cube 84. But District 360, District 360 is our product. It's an app that we built on the Salesforce platform that's pre-configured for this industry. We spent a couple of years consulting all these organizations who already had Salesforce. No one was doing it very well. Since we knew this industry firsthand, we just went ahead and built the right structure for this industry, and that's what District 360 is.
Got it. So District 360 is a Cube 84 product.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if I could just add to what a CRM is, a constituent relationship management, it's not just your contacts, but it's how you integrate with your contacts. So the difference is, instead of just having my name, Ebony Walton, it's also adding, was I a donor? Was I a sponsor? Do I own a property? And so that's where you get into more comprehensive information, where you can't put all that in an Excel spreadsheet, but it's your contacts and how you relate to them. And I think one of the key things to understand about Salesforce, it is the 600-pound gorilla. As Gina said, it can do whatever you want. But the key is, it was initially built for people in sales. So for instance, when you put in a contact, it has a contact owner, because in sales, I don't want you, stealing my contacts, because this is mine. And so you have to sort of navigate what that means to a bid into your organization. And so for us, for instance, the contact owner, we say, that's just the person who put in the contact. I don't own the contact, I just put it in. So you customize it and figure out how you need it, but literally you can do whatever you want with it. And I think the key thing about District 360 is it helps you take this 600-pound gorilla and put it in a bite size for the work, the specific work that bids do.
And it's set up in a way where you have, and this is just Salesforce across the board, you have accounts and you have contacts. So you have businesses in one bucket, and then under that business, any of your contacts who roll up to that account are contacts in there. But if we see the great resignation, people moving around, you still have that contact, but they may be working for a different account or a different organization. So it allows you to also move your contacts as they move around.
And you can still have spreadsheets.
Yes, and you can download this. You can use Salesforce to download spreadsheets that people can use.
Yes,
in the form of reports.
Right. You just want it to come from Salesforce first. You don't want them to be updating those spreadsheets, right? Like that's just information. So that's just information you pull out of Salesforce. It's a snapshot in time because you're constantly updating your data. So you create reports, and those reports can be exported into Excel. So if you really love Excel, I don't know if anybody here does, but you can still have your spreadsheets.
Does this integrate with geospatial data too?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's, thanks.
Another question back here. We just implemented the nonprofit success packet into Salesforce. So I was curious if you had an example of how you use that, or what that integration looks like. I know we were kind of having a challenge just because we have kind of, like, I manage a membership part of the organization, and somebody else really wanted it for the foundation element of the organization, and we also have several different data sources, geospatial, we have retail catalogs, business catalogs, and I'm curious to how that kind of all integrates within the system.
Yeah, so actually both Ebony and Gina's organizations are really good examples of that. Gina has memberships that they're managing, and Ebony's team has the foundation side that they're managing. And it can be configured however you want. So Ebony said they want everyone to see everything, right? So the foundation team who's doing all of their fundraising, when they log in, they see they go just where they need to work. But the bid folks want to see all this, so they don't want to see bid stuff. So we've set it so that when they log in, they go to their fundraising world, and that's where they live. The rest of the team on the bid team, when they log in, they see the bid world plus the nonprofit world. So if I look at a contact in the bid world, I can see they're on my board, they're a business owner, they're a property owner, and they're a donor. So that you can see all of that information. So it's really flexible for your membership team. If they want to see everything, they can, or we can set it so when they log in, they just see membership, and same thing for your fundraising. As far as website integration, I think that's what you're talking about with the business directories and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so that is literally just making a connection from your database to your website. And the way that we usually configure it is we just put a box on the account page or company or business, whatever you choose to call it, that says publish to website, because obviously you're gonna have far more businesses that are in your Rolodex, but not necessarily downtown district businesses that you want to show on your website. So we'll give 2 or 3 people on your team the permission to check that box. And what it does is when they check the box, it pushes live to your business directory. So it takes away the needs for, new business. We update it here, we update it here, and here, and here. You just update it one place and it goes everywhere. And for like Long Beach, we did a cool automation where they can put the date the business is going to open, and then the system is set to just fire on that day. So if something's gonna open October 1st, I can still enter it today, check the box, and put the opening date. On October 1st, it'll go live on the website.
Yeah. There's somebody back there who keeps getting next.
Can you go a little bit deeper into the board integration? Like, what exactly does that entail? Are you uploading files and documents? Is all the meeting communication happening through the platform?
It can, yeah. So it's a, just as part of the basic contact page, you have board roster management. So you can put in the positions they're on, they hold any committees that they're on, their term dates and all of that, so that you can quickly see, you know, who's should be on the slate this year, all of that. Then there's also a meeting management piece if you're interested in that, and that does what you're alluding to. So you create a record for that meeting. It'll automatically show you who your current board members are because you've entered that in your roster piece. And so as you get RSVPs from folks, you just check the box for RSVP so you know if you're at quorum or if you're short of quorum. And then day of, same thing, you pull it up, you mark everyone as take your attendance. And then standard Salesforce functionalities, you can upload the files for that meeting, you can upload your minutes when it's done, and there's a button there too that's for send email to board members, so you don't have to maintain a distribution list in Outlook and somewhere else. You can email directly from there. And when any email that's sent from the system is also automatically logged to that contact record. So to Ebony's point, you can see how much, are we having too many touch points with our board members or not enough? So yeah, it's sort of all there from the meeting management.
The files, is it something that the board members can access those files from their end as well?
That's tricky
If you put an API to your website and had a member placed on your website, you could probably put a link in the email to the board or the committee or whatever group.
Any of the files and a lot of the records in Salesforce will have a link that you can make available to share with folks, so yes. But it's all up to you.
We don't do that.
Other questions?
I have a question. For Ebony, you said you all use Blackbaud. Do you do your own billing? We do our own billing. Do you do your own billing?
We do.
You use Blackbaud for that?
Good question. I am not on the finance team. Excuse me. I don't think we use Blackbaud for billing. I think we have to use the city's system, and Jared's shaking his head yes. So yes, we use the city's system thank you, Jared, to do our billing. So unfortunately, we can't use Blackbaud to do that.
But yeah, the process with you guys too, once the billing is done, then Inez sends his spreadsheet, and that's what we import into District 360. So they can go to any property and they can scroll down and they can see what was the assessment last year, what was it this year, how much did they pay in those billing cycles, and now they own that, right? So if they want to have that on a dashboard to see how is property value increasing, they have that.
And we don't do direct billing either. Our billing goes from the city does that, but we maintain all of those records attached to the properties and can pull reports. It's very simple for Josh.
Yes.
For those who, like Detroit, who don't do their own building, I work for Downtown Austin Alliance, and Travis County handles that for us through tax assessments. However, one of the largest challenges we have then is actually knowing who the people are. When 123 LLC gets billed and there's no person's name, it's just a PO box, we really struggle to figure out who our members are and even get them to vote for something like an annual board election. Has anyone else grappled with this?
We do actually, and we have the exact same issue that we have, that you have. So we have the property, but we also maintain, which is on a much more manually, but it is in Salesforce. We maintain what we call the true owner, or the DDP true owner, and we track that and we investigate it, and so we try to have a specific owner attached to each parcel. Sometimes it's more than one because there's a tangled web in property ownership in downtowns.
Go ahead.
I just have a question about getting the team on board using the tool. So we're new to District 360, and there's a few of us in the office who love it, use it, and we're just really struggling with getting everyone on board to use that tool, that Salesforce first model. And I'm just wondering if you could touch on how that worked.
So I think it's different for each organization, but you have to have an internal champion. There has to be one person who is championing Salesforce, and you have to have also buy-in of executive leadership. I think figuring out for your team, showing them how and why it's important, and that's going to look different for each organization. The other thing that I have come across is sometimes you have to change your strategy. So yes, we may say it in a meeting, but maybe I need to do small group sessions and I need to meet with departments. Maybe I need to just meet with the person and show them. And maybe you give some people a pass. Like, you know, we have a person who will remain nameless who still loves paper, has piles of paper on their desk. And so maybe it's if they're willing to give you the context, tell me who they are and I will put that in. I think you have to be careful with that because everyone wants there to be one data person. And I think when you have one data person, then you don't have ownership of you putting this information in. Sometimes it's regular check-ins, you know, sometimes it is continuing to just beat the horse and sound the alarm of we need you to put your contacts in. Sometimes we try to do like fun ways, sometimes I give people homework, they don't necessarily like that, but just figuring out how your team works and what is the thought process and what is the resistance, like what is their resistance to using it and how can you assuage their concerns, and also show them that you have all these Excel spreadsheets on your computer that no one can access, you know. And then some organizations, we haven't done it, but some people it is like, if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. I don't know, we're not there. So I don't know if that's an answer, but it's finding different ways to get them on board. And you really have to connect with each person because the same sort of mantra spiel won't work for everyone. Some people will get it like, yes, I want to do it. Others are like, this is another thing I have to do. This is your job, ma'am, and I need you to do it. But you know, some people you have to be a little bit more gentle and just guide them through the forest. So hopefully that helps.
We actually do the opposite.
Sorry, that's okay.
And part of it's because we haven't been using it very long. But Rebecca and I, we don't let anybody touch it. It's ours.
They can see it though, right?
They can see it, and we encourage that. They can ask for things. We teach them how to use it. They get a training, everybody gets training. But nobody messes with the data, it's ours. Eventually, we hope that we will feel comfortable letting people in, but we have set up some systems where people can provide us with the information that needs to be updated, and that's working for us. So we know it's accurate, and if it's not, we know it's our fault, and that it was a long road to get, you know, the organization's been around for a long time, and so we have all the same things, spreadsheets and post-it notes and all of that stuff, and we know that now when we send out a mailing, we have a clean list. There's nothing more satisfying than that. We know we have all of our businesses and all of our contacts in there, so we have not let anybody in. But yes, they do look at it, and they know, they look at reports and they get regular information. They get what they need. But we do have 2 people in the organization, and we only have 7 people who handle it. So if you know, that might be just another way to look at it.
I'll add, we fall somewhere in the middle. In the day that we send out a mailing or an email invite and we know we have a clean list, there will be a party because we're not there yet. And something that I think is very interesting about our organization is possibly the person who would sit before you and tell you she is the least tech savvy in our organization is one of our prime users and one of our biggest champions of the platform. Something that we did within the last 30 days that I think is going to be very helpful to us, we had a couple of open positions, a couple of open administrative assistant positions, and so we have these 2 new people who, before they even came on, we told them it was part of their job. And so they're being trained from the beginning, so we repositioned it, so it's not necessarily everybody taking on something new, but 2 people who are particularly directly responsible. I always say in our organization, when something is everybody's responsibility, it's nobody's responsibility. And we've struggled with that a lot over the years. So now, and I mean, Josh is our data program director. He is not going to be the person, he doesn't have enough time in his day to be entering everybody's contacts and making the changes that are needed. So he's more responsible for the architecture, and we're trying to make the, changing putting contacts, updating, the things that are the day-to-day, somebody else's responsibility, but two people in particular.
And once you get through the initial implementation where you get everything in it, then updating it is really not as difficult as you might think.
As long as you do it.
As long as you do it, as long as you keep up with it, yeah. It just becomes part of your routine, so.
I just wanted to thank Ebony for beating the drum that, this data does not belong to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think just in terms of the success of our organization and continuity of operations, it's critical that there's a central nervous system. I inherited an organization, I had an entire department that left. And so all of that knowledge went out the door. I had no idea who we had spoken to, what relationships were in place. And so now, like we're a new user, we're using the platform for business retention visits. We're keeping track of, how businesses were feeling. So again, that information is useful when a property owner says, hey, I'm not happy. Well, actually we provided, so-and-so provided support on this day, and this person did this, and this, and this. And so just thank you for beating that message.
Anytime.
And one thing with that, this does not belong to you, I highly recommend having, as part of your employee manual, everybody understanding and acknowledging that they cannot download it and take it with them either. These are not contacts that people can use for their personal projects or other fundraising. They belong to the organization.
And I do think having that in the beginning, it's really key. When a person starts at your organization, it should be part of the onboarding. Because when it's not, it becomes disjointed, but people understanding when you come on board, this is the system we use, and this is the expectation. It really helps to carry that through, and goes back to your question of when you figure out how you're going to talk to your team, how you're going to integrate it. It's sort of like, this is the phone system we use, this is the internet system, this is what we use, and this is the expectation. I'm curious from people in the audience, what do you think about what we said? Is it like scary, or there's still maybe you don't understand, or it seems like, something not attainable? I'm curious as to what people think about what we shared.
Or do you have something that you're doing that you want everybody to know that we should know?
Well, I'll share. I'm going through this process right now. I'm at a BIA that is 30 years old, and I walked in, there's no data system. So we're going through this process. I'll be honest, Salesforce has been impossible through the actual sales process that they take you through. It's not been pleasant, so we're not even thinking about them. We are looking at 2 other systems called HubSpot and Zoho. So don't think that there's not other options out there that can't be right-sized. I think it's critically important that you have somebody who knows what they're doing set up your system, because we hear that consistently, that it has to be set up for your organization for it to function properly and for it to have ease of use. But above all, the thing that I have heard is that you need to establish how important data is to everybody on your team, and you need to cultivate a culture of respecting data. And I heard that from Tourism Calgary. They were one of the organizations I called to do a consultation with, because they have excellent data protocols in place. And the same woman has been doing it for 25 years, and she said every time someone is hired, she's the first one in the office saying, you will respect the data in this organization, and this is what you will do to ensure the integrity of the data. So I mean, I love hearing that everybody's got a different process that works for their organization, but that you all respect how important the data is to your function. So.
Thank you. And that's fair, you know, like I said, Cube 84 was our third consultant that we used, and the first two just really, and I think going back to your point, when you decide what you want to use and what you want to invest in, then it is those steps of what you do. And so you don't always get it right. Because I think for a long time it just sat on the shelf because it wasn't configured the way we needed it to. And definitely we have people like, I am not using that, it is too much. So we had to figure out, okay, this consultant didn't work. And I think one consultant said they didn't want to be bothered with us. So whatever system you use, figuring that out, and to your point, you have to own and respect the data. And it's fine if Salesforce isn't for you. You got to do what works for you and the size of your team. Like, I love that, but we have too many people, and as territorial as I am, I need other people to help you, because to Gina's point, I don't have time to put in context, and I think that's the other side. What do you want to invest in? At one point, we had a Salesforce administrator, and so as things reorganize, what is the priority? Because if people think that I'm going to be the only person with their contacts, then that's not happening. But getting people to buy into it. So thank you for sharing that.
You can, another interesting feature that we're trying to use more is it connects very well, I don't know if it's very well, but it connects with Outlook. And so you can, you know, when you get an email and it's a new contact, you can set it up so that it's very easy to import that contact or export that contact to Salesforce.
But even if it's not a new contact, if I have an email from a person who's in Salesforce, I can log from my Outlook that email to Salesforce. So if it's a person, whoever, sponsor, donor, property owner, and I'm interfacing with them, and I know even if they're not in Salesforce, I can add them directly from Outlook. And so as many things as you can do to make it easier for your team, I think that's the other side of it. You know, and I think it can be overwhelming at first, because the thing about Salesforce is you have to do all these add-ons. But again, if you're going to invest in it, do what works. So I love that feature because I can just, hey, I got an email from Kate, I log into Salesforce, off of my Outlook, and I don't have to actually log into the system.
Can you talk a little bit about how much your organizations spend on this product? Like, I understand it's quite a bit of investment, but like, what kind of investment are we talking about?
It's a lot.
And the nonprofit price is much
Yes.
lower than the for-profit price. We're actually looking right now at, does everybody need a license, or do we concentrate it more in a handful of people?
And you're both like 10 million plus orgs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I hear a little bit from you? No offense.
Yeah, I wasn't in the initial implementation. I don't know. Wasn't involved in that part of it. The annual cost is, I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it to have that information. And we do run it through. We're a 501c6 in the US, and we have a 501c3. We do run it through the 501c3 so that we can take advantage of those nonprofit rates. So yeah, so I think, I mean, compared to other tools that we use on an annual basis, absolutely 100% worth every penny.
And Kate can probably share a little bit, how much is it per license?
So yeah, let me provide clarity there. Salesforce, which District 360 installs into and runs on the Salesforce platform, right? So the first thing your team needs is a key to the Salesforce door or a license. Salesforce has a program for 501c3s in America, and I'm not sure what they are in Canada, but nonprofit, essentially. If you're a nonprofit and you have documentation to prove it, Salesforce has a program that will grant you 10 free licenses. So you get 10 free seats, which is a huge cost savings because a Salesforce license full price is like $175 per user per month for the platform. So you start with 10 free licenses, and then for the life of your relationship with Salesforce, you'll get nonprofit discounts. So, you know, any of their other products that you want to buy, they're usually 30 to 50% off. But speaking directly to the District 360 costs, our annual subscription for our app is $3,600. We don't care how many people are using it. We don't care. It's not a per seat cost or anything. It's just the cost of our app. And you get support, and you get your annual assessments imported every year. And we do product development. We do a survey and ask people, what do you want us to build next year? So our fees are low. I think that's what Hannah's referring to. And I think Gina and Ebony are speaking more towards, like, when you have 30 people who need licenses, that means you're buying 20 licenses on top of those 10 that are free. So for smaller organizations, it actually does end up being cost effective.
That's actually really nice to know.
Yeah.
In our organization, where we have about 30 full-time employees, we cost allocate to the different departments and the different programs. And so what we budget per person is, and that includes the platform. We also purchase blocks of time for technical support that we can draw on as we need, you know, special projects or, you know, technical, you know, whatever we need. And we budget about $1,200 per person per year.
And there is a cost for implementation, but, you know, that's a conversation you have, you know, with
us.
With Cube 84 about your organization, what your organization needs, because as you heard, it can be, you know, this, and it can be everything. Right. So you have to figure out what's most important to you, and go from there.
Yeah.
And the first two consultants we used were far more expensive than Cube 84. So that was what I was alluding to, and I was saying it's a lot. That initial setup of what the consultants charge you can really be your biggest cost. But I think that Cube 84 does a good job of creating something that is specific to what you need, and you know, you can customize it and change it as you want to or feel the need to.
We were in the exact same boat as you.
Yeah.
We skipped all that. We just went
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the app and kind of the use of the platform outside of the office?
Sure, the field services app?
Yes.
Yes, so we have as one of our, all of our solutions, it's like a menu, so you can pick and choose off the menu what you want to plug in or not. So he's talking about our field services clean and safe team management app. So what we've done is we have built an app. It's available on Google and Android, and it enables your field services or clean and safe teams to track their work in the field, and all of that data comes back into your central platform, and then you can tie it to properties or businesses. They're custom for each team, so whoever purchases it gets to participate in the design process to the extent that they want to. They don't have to. We can give it to them the way it is. But it's been fun to see how different teams in different cities really dial it into those services that matter the most to them. I don't know what else to say about it. Is there anything else more? Is that helpful?
I can add to that though. Salesforce does have an app that everybody can have on their phone. So like our small business engagement manager has that on her phone. We're actually probably gonna get her a tablet so it's a little bit bigger, but she can be entering information about her visits, her retention visits, while she's in the field, as opposed to, we're trying to get her away from, you know, the Post-it notes that now she has at home and in the office, and, you know, make it simpler for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. The Salesforce app is in all the stores and it's totally free, and you use the same login that you do for, you know, the web browser. You put it into the Salesforce app and you can have it on any mobile device. So I've heard of teams who literally, when they, you know, do an audit or a survey, they'll just take the tablet, or when they're going out to lunch, they'll take the tablet and they'll, you know, when they talk to someone, they'll just log it, or they'll update, oh, that business, you know, is open now, or, you know, so you can even edit it, you know, as you go. Or, and when I used to work in bid, the executive director would sometimes pull it up and pull up the contact of like who she's just going to meet with, so that she can see, you know, what are the last 5 interactions we had with this person, and, you know, get ready for a meeting that way. Yeah.
But the District 360 mobile services app is different than the platform on your back end.
Yeah.
So there's 2 components to it. And so on the operations side, it's what do you want to track? Do you want to track bags of trash that were picked up? Do you want to track landscaping? Do you want to track, we have a park, do we want to track, what restrooms are clean or not? So that is specific to your operations team and building that out, and that is available on a mobile device, and then it does go, you can see the cases that you put in, you go into Salesforce and see those cases. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you another question about Detroit. Can you remind me how many properties you said are in your district, and from a resource standpoint, about how many staff resources do you dedicate toward getting that contact information right every year?
So we have, this year we have 488 parcels in the business improvement zone. All of the assessment data falls within the responsibility of Josh Long.
Okay, so one full.
But he's responsible for our entire data program. So he does the assessment. While we don't bill, we create the assessment. We calculate the assessment, the board certifies the assessment, and then we send it to the city to do the billing. But we also have, if you go to our website, we have some really fun, we use a lot of the tools that are in the marketplace. We work with Placer AI, we work with My Sidewalk, and so we've incorporated a lot of that into what we call Datascape on our website. We also have taken some of our surveys. We do a biannual perception survey, and that's tracked with the changing perceptions of the community. So Josh has done a lot of fun things and is always looking to do more.
I hear a lot of voices outside, so I'm assuming that it's time. We have a few hyperlinks to resources. Your peers are some of the best resources, and all the contact information for our amazing panel is here, and Josh Long, who's not here, is also there. So
I promised him that I would give him shout outs. He was very nervous that I wasn't going to know what I was talking about. So if I can email him saying that I did, I would appreciate that.
Great. Thank you all so much for coming. Stop by our booth if you have more questions. We would love to chat.